What's up, guys? Welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. Special shout out to my high contributing patrons, Newsom, you rock. Now let's get into today's Precon upgrade with Deep Clue C. And guys, I'm kind of a big fan of this commander. He comes down early, he starts giving you card advantage, you'll have no maximum hand size, and then additionally he can get massive. This deck just wants to do one thing: draw 2 cards a turn on everybody's turn. That can net us up to 8 counters on our commander, and that will start making commander damage a viable option, especially when there's a couple cards in the deck that do make him unblockable. So that's exactly the route we're going to take. Draw as many cards as possible, at least 2 on our opponent's turn and our turn, triggering our commander and all the other synergies as many times as possible. Now, to do this, we're going to take a lot of the cards out of the deck that draws cards on our turn, and then we're going to include looters. Looters are going to be an amazing way to do this. It takes a lot of the load off of the clue tokens, because the problem with clue tokens is it's going to take you 6 clue tokens and 12 mana a rotation to trigger our commander every single time. That's just too much mana and too many clues. But using looters, as long as we have some looters on the battlefield, some of them just straight up draws 2 cards right away, triggering our commander, which is going to be extremely useful. And then other times, the fact that we can just tap it, get the card, and then activate the clue token, that's 2 mana instead of 4, so that's going to be another really viable option. Something else we are going to include in the non-budget options of this deck, which stay till the end of the deck if you want to see the non-budget options, is Seedborn Muse. I don't know why they didn't put Seedborn Muse in this deck instead of the other deck, because this deck just synergizes with it way more than the other one. But honestly, if you get a Seedborn Muse in this deck and you start untapping all your lands and you get to untap all of your looters, you get to draw 2 cards on everybody's turn, yeah, this deck is just going to shoot off. So without further ado, let's get into these cards. After these words from our sponsor, into the AM. Guys, again, I'm really excited to partner with these guys just because I'm a big fan of the product. The shirt's super soft, it fits perfectly, and then additionally, the graphic tees look amazing, which, I mean, I'm a simple man. I just love my graphic tees, and I'm happy, especially when they fit me perfectly. They taper at the sleeves, which, again, unreasonably obsessed with. So if you're looking to upgrade your wardrobe, these high-quality tees are super solid. Additionally, you can use code DECKTECH at checkout to get 10% off your order. Now, let's get back into this Precon upgrade. The first thing we're going to add to the deck is Min Wiley. Honestly, synergizes perfect with the deck and should have been in the Precon. Magus of Bazaar, Shirakai Genesis Engine, and Cephalid Broker are going to be perfect in the deck, getting us 1 trigger off of our commander on one of our opponent's turns. Kiora's Follower is also going to be added to the deck. It's going to be solid ramp, and additionally, we can use it to untap our looters. Joriel, this one's going to be another solid include as well. That land is going to be massive, and then additionally, with our card per turn and the land dealing combat damage, that will be 2 cards on our turn, and boom, we will trigger our commander very consistently. Balden's going to be insane in this deck. We're going to have a massive hand, so he's just going to feel like a Craterhoof behemoth in this deck. Another thing that the deck didn't really dive into that I think this deck can really benefit off of is Power Matters card advantage. Return of the Wildspeaker and Rishkar's Expertise are going to be perfect in this deck, drawing us a ton of cards, and then we won't have to discard because of our commander's no maximum hand size ability. We are also adding an infinite power combo to the deck. Lonus, Genetic Expert, and Yotian are going to go infinite, netting us infinite clue tokens and infinite power on Lonus. Now, how this works is as soon as we generate a clue, we get to put a counter on Lonus, and then boom, we generate another clue. Again, infinite power and infinite clue tokens. Pretty busted. Jaheira, Friend of the Forest, is also going to make the list. We have a lot of tokens, and then additionally, we have a lot of clues. So being able to tap those for mana is going to be amazing. Dagon is going to be amazing in the deck as well. Not only does he get massive and synergize with the no maximum hand size part of the deck, additionally, the deck was lacking removal. I think there was only 5 removal pieces, so we did have to go ahead and add some. Beast Within, Generous Gift, and then we do have some board wipes with Bane of Progress. Now, notably, this will axe your clues, but again, you'll just get a massive creature off of this, and then additionally, it will always be hurting your opponents more than it's hurting you. Austere Command is also going to make the cut, just because I like the flexibility of this board wipe, and then we did have to add a little bit more ramp with Nature's Lore. Moving on to the non-budget options, I kind of wanted to look at more non-budget ways we can trigger our commander's ability. So, using stuff like Tindershoot Dryad and Illustrious Wanderglyph seemed pretty solid, especially when Koma's already in the deck. But how does this trigger our commander? We're going to be using stuff like Tribute to the World Tree and Elemental Bonds, two other non-budget cards that are going to be solid. This is going to make it to where whenever a creature with power 3 enters the battlefield, we're drawing a card, and then Illustrious Wanderglyph, Tindershoot Dryad, and Koma Cosmos Serpent are all generating those 3/3s. So all we have to do is crack 1 clue a turn instead of 2 clues a turn, and that's going to be an amazing discount. Not to mention if we have Teferi's Ageless Insight on the battlefield or Elkamrit's Archive, which we would also be adding in the non-budget options, it'll just straight up draw us 2 cards and trigger a commander every single turn with little to no effort. Cyberdrive Awakener is also going to make the cut here. Just animating all of those clue tokens to make them lethal threats is going to be extremely good. Invasion of Ikoria is not only a solid tutor, but additionally, whenever we flip it, it's another thing that gives our commander pseudo unblockable, making it to where we can kill people very easily is going to be solid in this deck. And then last but not least, we do have Seedborn Muse. The fact that we can use this to untap all of our lands while additionally untapping all of our looter effects, it's just going to make the deck a lot more consistent and run a lot smoother. I want to preface this by saying there's still a ton of clue generation in this deck, but we are going to cut some of it just because there are definitely more efficient things we could be doing. Confirmed Suspicion is a 5-mana counterspell. I really don't care what the upside is. 5 mana to counter a spell is almost never where I want to be. Search the Premises gets a cut here, mostly just because it's 4 mana, and at 4 mana there's just better things we could be doing in this deck. Checking your 4 mana slots and see if you'd rather play this over any of the other 4 mana slots, and if the answer is no, that's how you go about cutting things from a deck. Magnifying Glass is an easy cut here. You never want to be paying 4 mana to generate a clue to then have to pay an additional 2 mana to draw a card. 6 mana draw a card just seems very bad to me. Ransom Note, also an easy cut here, just not a big fan of the card. Uvenwald Mysteries would be pretty cool if it was token creatures, but I get why they can't do that. And then additionally, a lot of our creatures we don't want to die, so it's just added value whenever you're losing, so it seemed like an easy cut here, especially for 3 mana. Wave Sifter, you evoke it for 2 mana, and then you're going to investigate twice. That's not really where I want to be. It's just a one-off and then kind of dies, and if you hardcast it for 5 mana, that's really not where you want to be. It's useful in a Blink deck, but there's not very many Blink synergies in the deck, so it's going to be worth a cut. Serene Sleuth seems extremely specific. I don't know if you play against a lot of goad strategies in your playgroup, maybe this is good for you, but for 9 times out of 10, it's probably just going to give you that investigate trigger on the ETB and then do nothing for the rest of the game. Armed with Proof, a pretty cool concept, but at the end of the day, I think I'd rather be spending 2 mana to draw a card instead of 2 mana to buff a creature +2, especially when our commander already buffs himself anyway. Follow the Body's solid cut just because it takes a lot of setup. Not only do you need a board wipe, you also need a payoff for all the clues you're going to generate in your hand, and then additionally, you're going to need enough mana to board wipe and then cast it. So yes, too much setup, easy cut. Nader Kraken. Now we can spend 3 mana to draw cards, put a 1/1 counter on this, and create a tentacle. Not terrible, but again, we want to be saving our mana for our clue activation, so this is why this saw a cut. Graph Mole is just in the deck to pad our life a little bit. There's not a lot of ways to utilize that life gain, so that's why I went ahead and cut it. Thought Monitor, there's just a lot more efficient card advantage pieces in the deck. They included a lot of blink cards, but not a lot of blink. Thought Monitor's amazing if you can blink it, but the only way I'd play this is if we had Chulane out on the battlefield. So if a card's only useful when you have another card out on the battlefield and it doesn't win you the game, that's probably a good sign to cut it. Hornet Queen, again, another ETB, but even with Chulane on the battlefield, I'm not wanting to return this back to my hand to recast it. So again, yeah, we're going to cut that as well. Savala Explorer returned. Now, I know this synergizes with our commander because it's an easy card draw, but I think the looters are just going to be more efficient. Additionally, I really don't want to be giving our opponents additional value. Whirler Rogue does give us a solid way to make our commander unblockable, but again, for 4 mana, not where I want to be. Psychosis Crawler, now there are arguments to keep this guy in the deck, but the fact that we're just getting some incremental card draw and slowly whittling away at our opponent's life total is really not what this deck wants to do with all the overrun effects we have in the deck, such as Joriel. Junkwinder is also going to see a cut here. I know he has affinity, but at the end of the day, just tapping down our opponent's stuff for this massive creature is not where I want to be. Organic Extinction is also getting cut from the deck. Now, the problem with this card is we're not running a lot of artifact creatures. The problem is there's a lot of decks out there that do run artifact creatures. So the fact that we could be playing a board wipe that wipes our entire board but doesn't get rid of our opponent's board is honestly a problem. So it's going to see a cut here, even though it has improvise. That's going to do it for the deck tech upgrade, guys. Be sure to leave your suggestions for the upgrade in the comments down below. As always, I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you in the next one.